Good evening. The Design Review Board 2 public meeting of February 26th of 2009 is called to order. Please refrain from talking amongst yourselves during the meeting, and please turn off or put on vibrate all cell phones and pagers. If you need to talk, please leave the meeting room. Anyone who wishes to speak, including applicants, is asked to completely fill out one of the speaker's cards provided at the table by the front door and submit it to staff. You will be called to present a case or speak on a specific item as desired. Anyone who wishes to be re-noticed about an item or a project must completely fill out one of the postcards provided at the table by the front door and submit it to staff to receive notice of subsequent meetings. Current DRB agendas are available by calling our DRB hotline at 818-548-3171 or by visiting our website at www.ci.glendale.ca.us. A handout describing the procedures of the meeting, possible board decisions, and DRB reconsideration and appeals is available at the table by the front door. Please note that appeals must be filed within 15 calendar days of the DRB decision date. The chairperson may reorder agenda items at his or her discretion. Roll call. Mr. Carter.
Present.
Mr. Garagos. Absent. Mr. Malikian.
Present.
Mr. Zarifian.
Present.
Report regarding Mr. Garagos just arrived? Okay.
Present.
Thank you. Report regarding posting the agenda. The agenda for this meeting was posted on the bulletin board outside City Hall at or before 5 p.m. on February 19th of 2009. Oral communications. Is there anybody in the audience that wishes to speak on an item that's not a part of today's agenda? Any cards by any chance?
We don't have any.
Okay, great. Review calendar. Actually, we do have one staff announcement. Your next meeting on March 12th is canceled. So your next meeting will be in 1 month. Okay?
Thank
You have nothing on the consent calendar, so we're down to the regular agenda items.
Okay, so the first one on the agenda is 2 PDR 2009-004-A, 1623 Thompson Avenue.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. As indicated, this project is located at 1623 Thompson Avenue. The project is located in the R1R Floor Area Ratio District 1. Thompson Avenue is located in the northwest Glendale area. It's close to Kenneth, just to give you an idea, close to Western, and it is also close to the Burbank border, just to give you a general location idea as it relates to the location. The applicant is proposing to remodel the exterior facade and construct an 849 square foot addition, an 883 square foot accessory building, and a new 2-car attached garage. The existing detached garage will be demolished. The total size of the lot is 9,370 square feet, and the site is currently developed with a 1-story, 1,934 square foot single-family house and a detached garage. What I'd like to do at this point is approach the board and kind of walk you through the plans and the locations of the addition, and then I will go back to the staff report and go over our recommendation and staff analysis.
Okay.
So as I indicated earlier, the project entails, in addition to the 1-story single-family house, and what they're proposing to do is, basically, this is obviously the existing footprint of the house, and what they're going to do is take part of the existing front house, 195 square feet of it will be converted to a garage, and add a new portion for the garage, a new addition in front of that to have the garage located in the front. So that new portion will be 293 square feet. 293 plus the 195 square feet will give you the total of the new garage, and it will be 488 square feet total. Now, as it relates to the addition of the actual habitable floor space, the addition will, and I'll kind of break it through, and I'll refer to my staff report. The addition of 849 square foot includes the construction of 754 square feet along the north side of the house. That would be this area right in here. They're also constructing 95 square feet at the south side. And as I indicated earlier, they are proposing a small 83 square foot accessory building behind it. It's attached with a trellis, and attached to the trellis at the other end, closer to the north side, is a accessory structure, being that it's a bar slash little wet pool area next to the pool, like a barbecue, little, open space. And then they have the existing pool, which they are proposing to remodel. I have shown, or basically I've put up the landscape plan because they are proposing to completely redo the landscape. One of the prominent or most distinctive feature, or as it relates to the landscaping of this site, is, if you've seen already, is the oak tree that's located in the front yard, which is proposed to be preserved. It is a multi-trunk oak tree, and again, it has a very large canopy, and our staff, our urban forestry, has reviewed the project and is working with the applicant to make sure that all the mitigation measures are addressed during construction. So again, the total size of the house with the addition will be 2,557 square feet. And again, I mentioned as part of the renovation, they have the new trellis cover and at the rear, and they also have a new trellis cover located at the front as part of the new front entry. The existing garage and driveway will be demolished, and new the two-car attached garage and a driveway will be constructed at the front of the house, which means the existing detached garage, which is located at the rear of the house, will be demolished. I also wanted to note that the project does comply so far with all of the zoning requirements. And before I'd like to now jump into the design. Obviously, as you can tell by the photos, the existing house has a certain style, which is completely being changed and redesigned to a more modern style home. And that actually I go into detail in the report as to what types of use or the type of materials that they are proposing, which is consistent with this contemporary architecture. Are there any questions regarding any sections in the report before I jump straight to the staff analysis?
Nope.
So staff recommends that the board approve the project as proposed because it is compatible with the design guidelines and the overall neighborhood context. Staff also recommends the following to be considered, and that's to consider using permeable paving for the new driveway or California driveway rather than concrete. I would like to mention also, which I did not mention in the staff report, that in the R1R zone, when you construct a new driveway, decorative paving is a requirement. So due to that, the applicant will not just be able to use just a plain concrete driveway. It has to be decorative. And again, I did not mention that in the report, but I did address that earlier with the property owner, and he'll most likely bring that also as part of his presentation. He'll bring it up and perhaps discuss it with the board and maybe come up with a different type of material for the driveway. Regarding site planning, the proposed site planning, landscaping, and parking appears to be consistent with the majority of homes in the neighborhood and the design guidelines. The existing site plan conditions will be maintained and is therefore consistent with the general neighborhood pattern, and the addition is not inappropriate for the site and the neighborhood. As it relates to mass and scale, the overall mass and scale of the building will not significantly change. As previously indicated, minor changes to the front setback and the overall height and floor area will take place, and the addition is not out of context in relation to the general neighborhood. And lastly, regarding the building design and detailing, the proposed materials for the house enhance the overall design and are compatible with the proposed design. And again, the staff report goes into detail regarding all the different types of materials that are being proposed and incorporated throughout the building, including details on the solar panels, the siding that's being utilized, also the material board sample is being passed around, which also depicts the different use of material that is being proposed. and the types of windows that are being proposed as well. There's a window schedule that goes into, again, detail as it relates to the type of material and the style of the windows. So with that, I'm available for any questions regarding this project.
How many questions?
You know, I'm going to ask a question of staff. If they could just review for me, and I ask the audience's indulgence, this is me getting up to speed than any other comment. But what in our guidelines, a modern architectural design and its compatibility with other homes in the area, is there some existing language on that I should know about but don't? A modern design in an area of other homes that's fairly different from the existing properties.
There are a number of qualities that we look at when we look at compatibility. Very little of that has to do with style, unless there is a potential historic district or overarching prevailing style. But even then, we have been, and the board has been focusing on issues of mass, scale, and proportion in regards to compatibility.
Okay, thank you. That's all I needed.
Thank you. We have several cards on this project. Vladimir Tomalevsky. Apologize for that.
Hello.
Hello.
I'm the architect, LNV Architecture.
You can state your name and address.
Vladimir Tomalevsky, 1514 17th Street, Suite 201, Santa Monica. So we designed the house with intention to introduce as much as possible light and ventilation, which the existing house doesn't have. And doing that, we're complementing the existing slop roof, but with articulation which create this modern, more contemporary look of the house. No matter what, we try to use earthen color and materials, natural wood, stucco, and compatible roof treatment, so the house doesn't look cool, to have this homey feeling and to be compatible with the residential character of the neighborhood. Regarding the driveway, it's going to be decorative stamp concrete, or if the suggestion is to be permeable, it's going to be. So we are open to. I'm open for questions.
You have any questions for Derek?
I understand why you needed to leave the existing roof, for the 50% rule and the setbacks and all that. I understand that. But within that ordinance, you can sort of plant things on top, sort of California on top. My long question is, it seems like you're sort of leaving that element. I mean, I wish it had more of the modern elements. I think the roof kind of competes with it. And I'm wondering if you thought about how you might detail the eave, or maybe treat the eave differently so that it looked a little bit more compatible with how you are changing the style.
We did change the detail of the eave. The eave became a fascia cover with bonderized metal, which is on the color board. Two-piece flashing. One is the gutter, which is tilted, more dynamic than regular OG gutters. And the look, we were some kind of limited because of the canopy of the tree. It takes maybe 1/3 of the front of the house. So we are very cautious doing anything but one window open to the tree so that people can enjoy it from inside. Right now, it's on the street. They don't have a look to it. On the back side, and once we have this restriction for the tree canopy, we carry the design consistent. We didn't want to be flashy. We try to be subdued and behind the greenery and have this homey feeling, residential feeling.
Any more questions? I have a couple of questions. First of all, I really appreciate the modern architecture, so I want to commend you to taking the approach of rather than modifying what's there and something new, something fresh, something different. So I really appreciate that, and I thank you for that. I have several questions trying to understand the usage of the materials and the detailing. To me, I found a lot of similar type conditions using different conditions, different details for the similar type conditions. So if you can kind of step up to the board and I can explain to you what I mean.
I didn't introduce actually the detail of the siding.
Well, okay. Well, let's come over there on this one. A couple of questions, and I'm trying to understand the usage of the material, what you were trying to emphasize, and why you have different conditions for the same type of
Application of the
application. For example, over here, you have this slanted plastered wall. You're extending the wall up, and you have this very interesting detail. You have the glass going up to the roof framing, and you have the same condition here, and you brought the glass up to the frame, and you brought this up. Why didn't this happen over here, so that you have the same kind of a element there, and so the same detail was not used? Was there a specific reason, or because it's just
I feel it's this house represents spaces which are different, like usage. One is dining room, the other one is bathroom, and like formally apply similar treatment to different space with different function. I think it's a little mechanic. So our goal was to have a aesthetically composed.
like for example, and this is for example, you have windows in closet. Within the same closet, you have one
Different.
larger glass, we have one smaller glass that doesn't match any of the lines. This top is matching this line, but then this didn't come down to even match this or this. So this is within the same space,
Yes,
same closet.
and it's a composition to us. We didn't try to have monotonic repetition.
Right.
We tried to have some kind of more
Okay.
contemporary,
Okay.
aesthetically composed plane and elevation, etc.
Yeah, and then like for example, the other spaces that I was looking at, you have on the plan, you have this pop out, and then you have this. I'm assuming that you're trying to accentuate this wall that you've created that extends beyond, and so you plaster that, but you created this very heavy, very dominant piece of element there. And then it comes through similar to this, but then it actually wraps around and creates this off-center window system that your window goes against, and then you have this wood that comes in there. So again, it's do you understand what I'm saying?
But we purposely didn't want to apply the same element everywhere. So we're looking more like composition, the whole picture.
Okay.
And I think it's get more unique, a little more.
Well,
Yeah.
okay. Well,
It's a
I just
personal
wanted
opinion,
to. Okay.
and I
okay.
appreciate.
Okay.
I understand what exactly you try to
Okay.
point.
All right. Thank you. I just wanted to get your opinion on what your thoughts are. Okay. So this is what
This
you're
is a
using.
material which can substitute the wood.
Right.
It's a TRESPA, it's a 1 hour rated, but somehow it hasn't been approved by the local fire department.
Okay.
And we are in process to do some paperwork
Okay.
that they can.
Thank you. Please. We have two more cards. Tarek Ghaffar.
Someone has a card holding up.
I need your card if you're going to speak. So if it's for this project. Okay, I need your card, so.
I actually work with Vladi. I'm one of the designers on the projects.
We're online, but you need your name. If you're going to speak, you need to, and you can just talk to them. Sir, you need to step on the side and do that? Thank you. Yes.
So I was, like I said, I work with Vladi. I'm one of the designers at the firm, and Vladi touched mostly on everything that I would have said, except for you had commented on the sort of playful articulation of the windows and why they weren't structured. A big portion of it had to do with existing. Again, trying to conform to the 50% of the existing walls to remain. The other part is once we realized that and we saw how the existing was composed, we sort of try to emphasize that and stick with that playful nature. And again, it also had to do with, like Vladi said, the function of the space behind for the fenestration. So I just wanted to emphasize that.
The condition and details that I'm talking about, to me, it's showing or emphasizing a very unique detail, which I really like. And it is unfortunate to use it at one element, and then you have the same identical usage or approach to the window detailing, but then you're just taking and want to put the more simpler solution, I think.
You're referring to the master bathroom pop-out.
Well, the master bathroom, it's fine. I don't have a problem with that, but I'm talking about the kitchen.
Right.
So, well, anyways, we'll talk. Thank you.
Thank you.
Richard Mayer?
My name's Richard Mayer. I'm a landscape architect with Troller Mayer Associates here in Glendale on Kenneth Road, 1403 Kenneth Road. First of all, thank you for the opportunity of being here. We really appreciated this project because it has this fabulous oak tree, and you've seen photographs of it. If you look at the oak tree in a front elevation, it's just about the entire property. And we had a very careful and thorough arborist report in December. The oak tree's in great condition. And so what we propose to do is to remove the lawn in the front yard behind the sidewalk and introduce mainly native plant materials, which would be called oak tree community plant materials. For instance, the irises and the ceanothus and the creeping mahogany and a whole bunch of stuff like that, which really will give the oak tree a much better chance at a much longer life than keeping the lawn around it. We've also pulled plant material away from the trunk, which will just have an oak leaf mulch. And in addressing that, I wanted to touch on the driveway. The reason we're not in favor of a permeable concrete driveway like with some type of unit paver is because of the subbase. We'll have to go down quite deep on the subbase. Right now there's a concrete driveway with a minimum base, and I'd like to keep that and give it an per the requirement of the city, do an enhanced decorative paving. But if we develop too much of a subbase with the intent of making it a permeable paving, we go down 12 inches with that type of aggregate and so on. We're digging and changing that subbase that's not existing around that oak tree. And the less we do, the better off we are. And that was the report also of the
But you are putting a new driveway there. I mean,
we are putting a new driveway, but the new driveway is sticking with the existing grade, and the old driveway has a minimum amount of material, and that's what we want to stick with. If we do a new driveway and do permeable paving, we have to have a much more extensive subbase, and the subbase is digging more around the roots, and it's just changing the environment around the roots of the tree.
So let's say if we do propose to put in the grasscrete or something that you can actually drive over, but it is you can put lawn or something that works with the architecture of the building rather than
Well, we'll do
completely-
something that works with the architecture of the building in terms of a decorative paving finish in a concrete. I am not in favor of turf block or grasscrete because of the liability of that type of paving. When you get out of your car, the walkway is from the driveway to the front door. So everybody walking, even from the sidewalk to the front door, has to be on grass.
I understand.
Trip
but,
on that.
But my question is, if you do come up with a system, let's say you come up with panels of concrete that has grass and kind of it gets divided within maybe 24-inch wide, and then the length 24 by, let's say, 6 foot wide, and then it's divided by a 6-inch landscape or lawn or something like that, that it kind of works with the architecture and it's more of a squarish rather than a curved linear driveway that works with the, is that something that will work with the oak tree, that you think that it would be
We can work with a pattern in the concrete to make it squarish in terms of any kind of jointing and so on. But if we introduce landscaping, as you're saying, some kind of grass or something, that's going counter to what we're trying to do with the oak tree. And I don't want to introduce grass in that area of the
river rocks, crushed rocks, anything like that. How's that work?
I'll be
Okay.
glad to
Well,
sit down
we'll-
with you and explore
well,
that, but I think
we'll go ahead
some
and
design, I think I've got a good handle on it.
okay. All right. Thank you. Luis Martinez.
My house is at 1627, next to the project. I have a just small question. The existing garage is attached to my property in the second patio. And this garage, the wall on the east side, connects to my property, and if they tear down, what's going to happen? They're going to put new wall there, or what's going to happen, because it's going to be open if they're going to tear down the garage.
You're saying that your garage wall...
No,
and
his garage.
His garage
That
wall.
garage.
Okay, so his garage wall and your garage wall is...
No, I don't have garage there.
Okay,
My garage is on the other side.
okay.
The wall,
I think what he's
the
trying...
existing wall of the garage is attached to my property, to my second patio.
Okay.
So if they're going to tear down the garage, that wall, whole thing is going to be open. What's going to happen? They're going to build a new wall, or what's going to happen? That's the only question I have.
Okay.
Good point.
We'll make sure that is addressed.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. You have any other comments? We're done? Okay. Well,
Do you want to
wanna-
answer the question?
Why don't you have them address the fence?
why don't you come up and address the fence, please?
By the project, the fence will be rebuilt with new one.
Okay.
We cannot.
So we should note that because it's
Yes,
not noted on the
part
plans.
of the should be part of the permit.
So in the interim, once you demolish, then very quickly you'll put down the new wall?
Yes,
Because I
we
think
have to. We don't know exactly the situation. Is that a bearing wall? What kind of foundation it has? If we have to remove the footing, do a new footing, we're going to do it.
Yeah, you'll probably provide protection till you build that.
Protection, temporary fence,
Yeah.
if we have to go through a longer period.
But it would be a block wall to match.
The block wall, yes.
Okay.
Our intention to have block wall or.
Okay. It just
Thank you
wasn't
very
noted
much.
on the plan.
Thank you. The public session is closed. Gentlemen?
Go ahead.
Okay, I'd like to also thank you for putting such a good presentation together, and the number of pictures that you've provided is commendable. All kinds of corners have been covered so we can actually see exactly what's going on, not only on the property but across the street. I also I think this is one of the best looking material boards so far we've seen. The one comment that I have is very much in line with what Mr. Malikian was saying, and also Mr. Gyarikos, because the only one corner that I think probably the oak tree won't let you see anything, but I'll show it to you on the elevation. I think this corner, the way the rest of the building works is that you have basically provided a new face to the existing house, and then the roof picks up, and you see the roof. There's no way to cover the roof, but this corner sort of becomes weaker because there's an element. This system of wall stops, and then you see part of the eave, and then this piece kind of stands up and goes around. So it loses its strength as providing sort of a wall that completely reintroduces the elevations in a new way. So I think this corner kind of, it doesn't know whether it's the old existing building or the new building. That's the part that I think really jumps out the most. But I think the rest of the detailing is very hard to pinpoint which way is the right way. So I think from my perspective, that's kind of a matter of a choice, but I think the overall building looks pretty good. So that's, I think I would just think that corner needs to be brought up to the rest of the building's appearance.
If I go next, I concur with my colleague, and as I'm doing my drive-by on this, and anybody that goes in this oak tree is substantial. It is a part of the family. I'm sure everything from your sewer main line, anything in your house goes through this oak tree. So I'm delighted that it's in good health and it's going to be maintained. And my earlier questions about modern architecture were just that many people will redesign their kitchen and go modern, but it's another step, one that we don't see much in doing the front facade in a modern tone. And this it does remind me that when you do go modern, attention to massing and scale becomes a little more of a talking point than not. But I think it's a very pleasing design, and I think people that see this could conceivably say, well, I never thought about going modern, but maybe that's an option for my home. So you may be planting seeds. And in the backyard, there are many people in Northwest Glendale that have pools, and this is a nice way of getting a little update on your backyard. Thank you.
Yeah, I also think it was a very nice design. It's very well done. I just had that same issue about integrating the old roof. I wish it didn't have the overhang on it. So I think what's nice about the other areas of the house is that they're sort of primal forms cut strong. And I think if the eave came off, it would give the old house kind of the strength of that primal form again. So that was, I do think that's kind of the weak corner. And unfortunately, it's on the front of the house. It was happening somewhere else. So I do think that's kind of an issue.
Can you clarify where, please?
It's this issue right here. It's just what's coming up right there. I think that the rest of the house is very interesting, and that just looks like it has a little bit too much of the old house there. And it lets me think about why when I play piano, I only play compositions I write, so they can't compare it to whatever else somebody else plays. So consequently, it's hard to say, where the window is, because, I wrote it, Otherwise, I think it's a nice design. I just wish that would at least look at that again and see if there's a way of it may be that it comes too thin, so that, again, even though you're doing a gutter again, it still has the sense of it in the silhouette is still going to feel like the old eave. So, if there's another way of looking at that, that'd be great. So that was the only comment. Otherwise, I think very nicely done.
Good, thank you. Well, I do agree with my colleagues, and as I said it before, I really appreciate modern architecture, and I'm glad to see this project. My concern, being that it's very close to my heart, I look at very carefully, and I have, unfortunately, I have a lot of opinions, but I have to hold back my opinions on a lot of this. But I would like to give some suggestions and some things that may have been seen by my colleagues, but may not be an issue. But I would like to bring that up, and I would hope that you would consider addressing these this issues. They're not life or death for me to deny the project or return it for redesign, but I would like to state some of the findings that I did and show you some of the, and may have been oversight on your part also. Going to the front, this particular element that it was added, I feel if you decide to keep this, and I personally, I don't mind this. I think it's a really an interesting contrast between the element there. But as you come around, the way that it's been done, that it's just attached to the side, I would carry this to make it look like a volume rather than an attachment, make it part of the building, and rather than removing it, I can just take this and remove it and make that to be, just a. Well, we can't have a dialogue, so I'm just saying this. Going around, this is interesting because this is the only place you used siding instead of plaster. But when you look at the plan, this siding and the plaster is at the same line. So, to me, how do you tie that together? How does the siding come to the plaster? I mean, all of these details, you've gone to the extent of adding some elements that kind of block this and close this off, rather than having this straight line that comes through. So I think if it's possible, and I don't know if it's even possible or not, I would either square this off and carry it over, or pop this out if it's allowed. Maybe give a thickness, or somehow make this an element. And the reason that it brought this to my attention is the way that the window comes to the line, whereas on this side it just creates this uneven balance there. I know this is a leftover from the original building, but going through this whole redefining this entire architecture of this building and keeping this bay window element, I think it's a great opportunity for it to square off and then just create a corner glass, that the glass goes around. This whole thing becomes this solid glass or something, and you can pick a detail around and kind of address that. And this really, to me, doesn't really make sense. It's not an element that it should remain. Again, going to the windows, I think it would be a lot more powerful architecture rather than look like a mistake, that they should be within the same room, within the same plane. They should be consistent. I think either, maybe that you create a glass and then carry it, cut this out, maybe do a metal panel. Maybe the narrow one, this ends are glass, and then metal panel siding comes to it. Still have a wall, so that element kind of plays with this. Or you have this linear line, maybe you create a long linear element there, and then that becomes in its own. So I think it's a great opportunity to come up with something new. Coming around, I think this is one of the most powerful details you have around the house, and I think it's a shame that it's just been used only in the bathroom. I think there's definitely opportunity to use this in a much larger scale. I think if you do cut this out and carry the rafter around, just like the detail you've done, having the window, and there's essentially no openable windows within that living space. None of these windows open up. This is a fixed window These are sliding doors, so every time you want to bring fresh air, you're talking about bringing fresh air and everything and high ceiling, but there's no actual windows with the screen that you can actually open up, and this doesn't look like it's an openable window. If it is, then, I would probably use the same kind of an element here. That's what I would do. And I think overall, I think it's a great project. Again, this, I would emphasize this also. Maybe that this detail is the same detail as you have here. Maybe that this comes around, and then this wood siding comes around, so you have this element occurring in the front that it is in the back. Because to me, it's just something that is used once, it makes it powerful, but then if the same condition is used in many different ways in the same house within this very small vicinity, it becomes non-thought of, and it doesn't become powerful enough. So I think this needs to be worked out, having the glass coming all the way against the plaster, whereas you have siding to that. One other thing, I'm being nitpicking, but this volume that comes in, it dies into a smaller volume, and you have a different line here, but then as you come around, it becomes this one element that kind of jogs around. I think that, the way that it's detailed, maybe that this massing on this side, maybe it's heavier, and this line carries across, and somehow these volumes kind of carry over to each other. So overall, I do like it, but I think some of these fine-tuning and coordinating these details together, I think would make it a lot more powerful. But one ironic thing, and having this giant oak tree in front, your rendering is completely managed to eliminate this oak tree. So I think having the rendering with the oak tree, I think you would see a completely different building. So as far as this site plan, I appreciate the site plan. I think the landscaping is exceptional, but I think the driveway needs work, being that it is going to be a new driveway for a new garage, and I think if it's possible, I would use more rectangular, more modern approach to just simply pouring the concrete in. There are ways to do it. I think if you want to go ahead and pour a 6-inch concrete, I would probably use the larger scoring of 6-inch band of maybe a scale of 24 by 6 foot or 24 by 8 foot panels, and then having a 6-inch band and maybe putting embed river rock or something there that create these patterns. If you don't want to put impermeable surface, but I think it definitely needs work on that. Rather than having this curve, I would be more rectilinear and not having the curve turnaround. I would bring that off and then break this as more of a square edges. Other than that, as Mr. James would say if it was around, oh, there it is. I couldn't find the trash and recycle area.
Yes, right next to that.
That's right there. So that's it.
Well, how do you want to resolve the driveway? Do you want to
Well, I think driveway definitely needs work. I think the other items, it's.
Well, do you want to resolve the material issue? Say that it could be cast?
I think I don't need to have an open discussion. I think if we can just leave it up to the staff. I don't.
Okay, I didn't know. It sounded like there would need to be direction whether it was unit pavers or not. Is that?
Well, we'd prefer for you to just give us direction, because obviously if we just leave it open-ended like decorative material, we'd like to know exactly what the board would like to see.
Well, if we were okay with same concrete, I'm just saying there was a question whether it was going to be unit paver or not. So
What What I think we also heard is a direction on the driveway that it should be rectilinear and that it should have a more rectilinear pattern. I think what we heard is that it could be concrete with some decorative material or scoring or colored concrete in it, but it could also be pavers. So is that right, that we heard that level of flexibility, but that there should be some level of pattern and that the shape should be rectilinear?
That's fine. It's just that they had no intention of doing unit pavers, and I was wondering why that was coming up.
And I think the landscape architect would like some clarity, so if the board is open to reopening the public.
Sure. Public is open.
Thank you again. I think we can get that rectilinear, and I liked what you said about certain types of scoring, and that's sort of where I was going. So I can live with that. The one edge which comes in sort of on a radius is to get as far away from the trunk of the oak as possible. And if we make that edge rectilinear, we encroach more on the oak. So we can definitely get the type of a rectilinear pattern and a very, should I say, contemporary pattern, which will help with the architecture and pull it into the driveway. But I'd like to keep that one edge. And I think it'll be a nice juxtaposition with the rectilinear driveway and that radius.
That would be fine. That would be fine. Maybe even if you can embed some lights in that concrete, ground lighting and stuff. So I think it would definitely. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, so the decorative paving was fine. That was, they could use the concrete, that was all.
Yeah.
Would you like us to read back the comments and considerations?
Most of it is mine. I don't want to, but if you guys want to hear it.
I think they're comments, that's probably okay.
This is, board members, this is what I've actually noted. Mr. Milliken went into depth as to considerations. I jotted down a few. I didn't go through every single one because honestly, I couldn't write that fast.
Okay, don't worry.
So, since you pretty much mentioned it, it's on tape. If the applicant would like to go ahead and purchase the tape, he can, and he could obviously take notes from there and incorporate it. When he comes back to the counter for stamp approval, if there are changes compared to what is presented today, then at that time, myself and our senior urban designer will meet and go over the project. Is that appropriate?
That would be fine.
Okay. Now, as far as conditions are concerned, all I noted were, well, initially there were, again, comments regarding that front left-hand side corner and how the turn is being presented because it looks more of an existing condition instead of the new condition. I actually noted as a condition, so again, because I was hearing the same comment by different board members, would you like to have that addressed as a condition?
Yeah, I can say something. I sort of thought about it and made up my mind that what is it that the house is trying to do. I think the house is the new version is a dialect between stucco, wood, and the roof. The parts that become kind of weaker are the parts that kind of before I say that, I think the stucco is the primary element and the wood has become an infill. I think that's probably something that you will agree. So the part that becomes kind of weak is that when the wood is trying to become the primary at that corner and there's not enough of it and it loses its strength. So maybe we can put it in that way that if you think about how to correct some of these details, and I think probably a lot of the comments were revolving around the fact that by repeating some of the similar detailing, you can enhance that dialect and make it stronger and let it come out in a better way all around the building.
Yeah, I would like to make that a condition that the corner is addressed. They've shown a lot of creativity. I'm sure they could do something that would be very attractive.
So what I noted was to restudy the front left corner and the turn on the south elevation by enhancing it and integrating it with the new design, thus minimizing the existing appearance. Is that appropriate?
Yeah.
Okay. And the last comment actually the second comment that I have noted, which is the last comment, or the last condition, sorry, has to do again with the driveway, and Stephanie touched upon that earlier. So we can go over the actual language, but basically I have down eliminate the curb on the driveway and to propose a more rectilinear pattern, and therefore, and also introducing decorative paving, for example, 6-inch scoring. We also have stamped concrete or other appropriate decorative material.
Yeah, that's fine.
And then after the landscape architect came up, I think we heard that agreement that the curve would be okay, because to make that a rectilinear
Okay.
That would be fine.
edge would
So we can
impact
keep
the
the
oak.
curb.
Right.
Okay, I missed that. Thank you.
Would you also like a condition added that, and I don't know if it's the timing or the construction of it, it wasn't shown clearly on the plan, the concrete block fence, the
Yeah.
portion.
Yeah, that's added.
So that, would you would
To
like...
construct a temporary fence,
No, the permanent fence. That the walls
But it'll be a-
continue to make the opening.
right, but as the applicant indicated, it may be a temporary fence until they actually do some investigating as to what type of structural, their foundation they have currently there, so footings, what have you.
But that it's ultimately a block, a
Right.
stucco block wall.
So again, a temporary to address that condition, to have some sort of boundary line temporary fence,
Yeah.
and then eventually introducing a block fence which is consistent throughout.
Yep, perfect.
Regarding the level of consistency and detailing, is that a consideration that we should add as an overall consideration rather than a
I
condition?
think it can't be otherwise, because then we have to be so specific.
Right.
And
And if I may emphasize something that Chair Malekian mentioned, but I want to make sure it's clear to the applicant and to all those watching. Very often, we notice, and we know that our applicants sometimes do get the impression that the board is, shall we say, not as receptive to contemporary architecture because there is such a rigorous critique. So I wanted to reiterate, I think Board Member Malekian said it very well, why I think you all said that you were very open to this particular modern architecture. It's staff's impression that because perhaps you're more familiar with contemporary architecture and you know it really well, and it's, as you said, close to your heart, you will tend to scrutinize it on a level where perhaps traditional architecture does not appear to be scrutinized in that manner. So I just wanted to clarify that to people who are watching, because sometimes we hear from our applicants that they've gotten the impression that the board really does not like contemporary or modern architecture. And so we just wanted to clarify that. And if the board agrees, we would like to keep the project, regardless of whether the details are modified. We'd like to put this as an example in our binders to share with other applicants as an example of an inventive and creative proposal, including the landscape design. We were very impressed also, as the board was, with the landscape design. We're particularly impressed with the landscape architect's testimony today and how familiar he was and how well he articulated the life and biodiversity and the way that he's dealing with the oak tree and the plant palette and so forth. So we know that we have a lot to learn from you, and we hope to see you again.
Thank you.
Yes. I'll make the motion with those conditions,
second.
considerations.
Was that second by Board Member Zarifian? to approve the project with conditions. Board Member Garagos?
Yes.
Board Member Zarifian?
Yes.
Board Member Carter?
Yes.
And Chairperson Malikian?
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Mr. Nazari, when you're ready.
Good evening, Mr. Chair and board members. The next case for tonight is 2 PDR 2009-003A, located at 3427 Arturo Avenue. The proposal is to add 2,029 square feet to the existing 942 square foot one-story house that's located in the R12 zone. The addition is also proposed to be one-story. It is located in the R12 zone, as I said, and the house was built in 1951, and ultimately it was altered in 1986. It is a flag lot. The house is located towards the end of the driveway or the flag lot, and it's got a approximately 210-foot driveway approaching the garage. There's an existing two-car garage as well that is not being proposed to be changed or altered. The project is exempt from CEQA and has been reviewed by the historic preservation planner and has not been determined to be of historic significance. The existing house that's sitting at the back of the proposed addition has a lower ridge line. As you can see on the elevation drawings, the proposal is a little bit higher than the existing, which will ultimately hide the existing behind it, except for where the garage is. Staff recommends an approval of the proposed project as the proposed addition is consistent in massing and scale with the neighborhood. The proposed materials and details are of good quality and are appropriate for this neighborhood. However, the board could consider the use of true stone veneer instead of cultured stone and fiberglass windows rather than vinyl. That pretty much sums up my presentation. However, I would like to also add that the proposal also includes decorative driveway and a geoblock grass, which I will actually come up to show you. When we first saw the project, actually, this was proposed to come up with a solution to be able to, as you back out of the garage, to be able to turn around instead of backing out throughout the whole 210 feet stretch. So this is a geoblock grass, which I personally am not too with, but I think the architect or the applicant is here. He can touch on that if you want him to. The massing of the house is that the shape of the proposed addition is sort of irregular in shape and has a lot of plane variations and turns and corners to create a more interesting facade. There's an existing gate here which is less than 5 feet and it's operated manually, so it did not require a permit when it was put up. I have found old permits that show the construction of the existing house and the additions in between, so I think I have pretty much touched on the things I wanted to. If you have questions for me, I'm available, and applicants in the audience as well.
Does the staff recommend approval?
Yes. I just have one question. This is me going to school again. This 210-foot driveway, where are you measuring? All the way up?
Well, it's a rough estimation from what we were presented. Basically, from the street or the sidewalk to the garage door, right. It's approximately that much.
So, up to the I guess it would be the north lot line there. How many square feet is it?
This lot is
10,000.
About 10,200.
Yeah. How much of that is the
driveway? Well, it's about 10 by 134, so it's about 13 to 1,500.
Okay.
Thank you. We have two cards. Baruch Abedi.
Good evening, Chairman and member and staff. My name is Warush Abedi. My address is 919 Patterson, Glendale, 91202. Just I want to add Mr. Nazarian presentation. Totally is not visible from the street. And if you have a question, I'm ready. Any question?
Any questions? Thank you. Zorik Champazi?
Yes, good evening, everyone. My name is Zorik Shabazi, the owner of this property. We're proposing this property and the design based on my growing family and the needs for higher square footage. It's kind of different type of design, but it's kind of attractive to everyone that sees the or saw the design. And we try to be or follow the guideline as much as it was possible. And it's kind of hard for my architect with the odd design and an angle, and just hoping to pass and start the construction. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Okay, that was quick.
Well, let me just add, in the drive-by, the owner applicant is correct. This is a recessed house. It's the property owner in front of it perhaps could comment, but it will not be visible from the street, I would not think. So let me just add that comment and pass it on.
Yeah, the fact that it's not visible and that you made an effort to keep the roof low, which I think would minimize the impact on the neighbors, whereas might have more of an issue with the stone and windows, I think because of its placement, I don't have as much issue with that. So.
I'm the roof design is
Interesting.
Not what I would have imagined, but the argument that just because it's not visible, so doesn't mean that we don't care. I think we still need to kind of make sure that if we see something that can be improved, we can talk about it. I think the only part that kind of looks somewhat strange, at least from the perspective of the bird's eye view, is this bay window, or that I think it's the plan. I forgot.
Kitchen.
It's the kitchen. Yeah.
Kitchen.
It looks like
The public session is closer, so if you have questions, we can ask you. Thank you.
Yeah, in terms of the massing, the way it's sort of tucked under the roof, I don't know what my colleagues feel, but that looks kind of alien to the rest of the. That's the only part that kind of stands out. However, on the elevations, it looks better. I think it has to do with the way it's drawn from looking from the top. But I think overall. It looks pretty good.
Wow.
Go for it.
What a difference in two projects. So, as my colleague said, it's away from the public. So, but as Mrs. Zurf said, we still need to comment. Personally, I think it's a very odd addition. Very odd addition. I'm not sure I would have done the way that the addition was done. My answer to some difficult roof problems is always on a new proposed project is always if the design is done by you, the roof should be designed by you. It's not you create your own headache, basically. I think that the way that the addition has been put against the existing very linear, clean building is the problem, and I think that's what's causing all these roof issues. I can go on for a couple hours on this project, but I'm just gonna, as you said, this is 100 and something feet away from anyone to see, so I'm just gonna sit back and let you guys make a motion. So.
Yeah, unless there's some condition that we want to make, any conditions? Conditions? And that is a relatively high wall height, but, so I think because of the grade change, it looks like. Although it is a 12-foot wall, but it's kind of high.
Is there a sample of the stone?
As far as the staff's recommendation of using fiberglass, I agree on that. So I would like that to be a condition. Also, as far as the veneer, I would like to use this stone
As a condition?
as a condition.
True stone.
I mean, my colleagues, if whoever sets the condition or the motion, I would like that to be added on, as staff recommended.
With that, are there any more?
But that's,
I don't know. I don't see that to be that big of a problem for me personally. I think.
Which one? I didn't hear.
No, the way it's been presented.
the veneer?
Yeah. It doesn't bother me to the point that I say, oh, if it's stone, then it will make all the difference.
Yeah.
So I can live with both with the windows and the veneer.
The only, again, I'll just say this just so we've talked about whatever I need to talk about. You think they're showing a 12-foot wall height in terms of its impact on the neighbor's backyard? You think it's an issue?
One issue is that the section, that it's not really giving us a true section of the neighbor, so I'm not really, I'm not sure what the impact is, unless we want to
Yeah, I just think that might.
more information on that.
Can we ask him? Do you mind opening it up?
Sure. Mr. Arbetti?
Is there a reason for the 12-foot plate height?
Owner, they have they want to have it high ceiling. That's it.
12 foot's pretty high for those size rooms.
You need to come up.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, one or the other need to stand and speak.
I have it based on, we're not exactly on a hillside, but again, there's a elevation.
Right.
I have a picture to present that shows the neighbor in the backside, which is almost the size of one-story building is higher than. So even though with that roof, I'm not going to be able to reach their porch staircase.
Do you have that picture?
I do have.
If you could get that, that'd be great. This room's only 14 feet wide, and you're doing a 12-foot ceiling. That's pretty high. Any impact on the neighbors if that's an issue? The house beyond?
Yes.
But that
My roof.
I guess I wouldn't worry so much about the one that's behind. It would be the ones on the left side as you're looking at the front of the house. Because you'd have a 12-foot wall.
Yeah.
Well, it's actually 12 in addition to, It's 12 and probably another 4, so it's maybe a 16-foot wall. That's
Hard to say from the photo.
8 feet away.
Hard to. Oh, it's this corner. There.
Yeah, it's 16. It'll basically be probably 16 foot straight up.
Yeah, I wonder.
Impact on the neighbor's side. It would be this neighbor here. Oops, sorry. Right here. You'd have a 16-foot wall on that side. It looks like the setback's about 8.
This is where the addition is.
Yeah, and the closest place.
The first part of that is about, it looks like it's about 6 feet away, that first piece. So at that point, you'd have a 16-foot wall 6 feet away, straight up. Which is essentially that elevation, west elevation, yeah.
We're talking about this much difference in reality. It's like 4 foot difference from the. Doesn't seem to me it will have that kind of too big of an impact.
Oh, even what there would have been if you just carried
Yeah,
it.
let's say this roof was here. I think that kind of the difference is really what we're talking about, right?
Is it really that kind of grade change?
Let's
Looks
say
like it's
this-
pretty flat right through here, isn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah, it's probably
There is some gentle slope there.
But I was just thinking if
That
this,
much?
this roof, for example, it was down here and went straight, I don't know if that's kind of an impact that I would.
You'd worry about, okay, I just want to make sure we looked at it. That was really the only issue I had, massing for the neighbor.
All right, so far I have two
Okay with the wall
conditions.
heights, everyone? I'll make a motion with whatever we said.
So a motion to approve with there were two conditions brought up by
We want
Mr.
to follow
Malikian.
the recommendations by.
The window is, if the board feels strongly about the windows, I could go. I don't think it's as critical that far back, but if you guys think it,
I think if there's one house in Glendale that can use vinyl.
then everybody
that
can?
is the-
Yeah, right, this would be the one you could use it. I don't know, unless there's, I know how the rest of the board feels.
So I think we can approve as presented.
And
That would
leave
be
those
my
as
motion.
considerations instead of conditions, or?
Yeah, you can make a consideration.
Okay, so we have two considerations to use fiberglass windows and true stone veneer instead of cultured stone veneer?
Yeah, this condition, as
Okay,
Consideration.
consideration.
consideration. And I have a motion made by Mr. Giragos. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, this will be a roll call. Mr. Carter?
Yes.
Mr. Giragos?
Yes.
Mr. Zarifian?
Yes.
Chairman Malikian?
No.
Okay, motion passes 3-1. Thank you.
I can mix it up a little.
Some excitement there.
This is New York newspaper.
So which one is it? Where's the presenter?
Have I seen this?
Chris?
Edwin. Oh, Chris, yeah, Chris. Where's Chris?
That's what I thought. All right.
We
I was
ready for the
absent.
next project?
Yeah.
Yes, we are. So I was just checking to see if I was absent, because I haven't.
Oh, okay.
So I was absent. Okay, 2 PDR 2008-066A, 1609 Glenmont Drive.
Yes, Mr. Chair and Design Review Board members. This project was reviewed last July, and because of changes, at that time the decision was for return for redesign with 3 conditions and 1 consideration. Because of changes to the Design Review Board regulations, it's coming back as a new project with a new case number, even though it's a continuation of the prior project. The proposal is to construct a second-story addition to an existing single-family house, which is 1 story, with some smaller additions on the ground level, and also changes to the architectural style of the house. When this project was reviewed last time, the conditions were regarding changes to the existing roofed areas that staff and the board recognize are inconsistent. Those roofed areas are existing and being retained. They are over the first story, and they flank the second story mass. The second condition was to reconsider the elevations for details and materials more consistent with the architectural style. And the third condition was to reconsider the configuration, size, and placement of the windows for consistency with the architectural style. And 1 consideration was to reconsider the massing to reduce the visual effect. The applicant has made several modifications to the project. The site plan is substantially the same. The site plan hasn't changed. The floor area of the building is still the same. The modifications refer to the architectural style. The windows have been somewhat modified, but staff still thinks that the windows can be further improved by reducing some of the large windows to make them more consistent with the Mediterranean style, and eliminate some of the transom windows. Second, the roof over the second story has improved with the addition of a gable feature on the south side of the building. The existing inconsistency over the first floor roof still remains, but staff thinks that given the topography, those roof elements on the east and west side of the building will not be that visible from the surrounding properties and the streets. And with respect to the use of materials, in the prior review, there was an extensive amount of stone veneer. That stone veneer has been reduced. The thick window surrounds have been refined to thinner window surrounds, and the white frieze around the second story roof line has been eliminated also. The plans are on the board. On the left side are the new submittals. To the right are the previously reviewed elevation drawings. Staff's recommendation is for approval with a couple of conditions. One is to replace the large windows with smaller windows and without transoms. And the second is to reduce the height of the entry porch to make it less prominent as a volume in the front of the house. I would like to wrap up my presentation unless there are questions from the board.
Do you have pictures of the house?
They are on the board here.
Oh, those, okay.
They're right there. There are pictures of the house and the surrounding.
I still see the backside of it. Okay.
I have a question. In your recommendations, you talk about transoms. Which transoms are you talking about?
Basically, those windows were existing. I'm trying to match the old ones.
Okay. Do you have any more questions for staff?
No.
Okay. Franco?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and board members. My name is Franco Noravian, 409 West Broadway, Glendale, California, 91204. I am the architect for the project. I hope you've had a chance to go by the site. If not, just this morning I was there and I took some pictures, so I'll be
I
happy to.
haven't driven up the driveway. I just driving up the driveway. It just
No, I meant like from the surrounding streets. I was on Glenmont. The first picture is where the Glenmont splits, and as you go up, you can eventually see the house. Last time I really thought that the second story will not be visible at all, but when we put up the story poles, I realized that it will be visible. But I think at that distance and with all the trees that are in front of it, it's screened pretty well. And even though it's visible, the visual impact of it is not that great. Yeah, like Chris mentioned in his presentation, the reason, and I know that staff was not in favor of us keeping the roof on each side, but on one side there's a master bath that I need to try to save, and on the other side there's
what do you mean?
Well, you see the addition mainly is right in the middle of the house, and to the left and to the right there's a gable. If you look on the upper left elevation, and then the second one down from there, the two upper, it shows the two sides, and one is a gable, an existing gable, and the second one down is the gables.
You want to come up?
Yeah, sure. All right, so the addition is basically from here to here in the middle of the house, right directly above this volume, which was just living room and dining room. And the reason we decided to do it there so that we don't have to tear down, this is a very expensive kitchen, and on this side a master bath. So we want to stay away from these two areas, and that's why we left the roof. And initially, last time, actually, that's what started the comment and the return for redesign, is because we had said it's a Mediterranean style, the board felt like it was not consistent with the Mediterranean style to have the gables. And so I've tried to go away from that. The what?
So sorry, I wasn't here.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this: are you happy with your new design?
Oh, I'm happy with it.
Which one you were?
I think the owner prefers the original one, but it's essentially the same thing except for the elimination of the details. And the reason I'll say it again, this elevations that we're looking at, the only way you'll see it if you're in a helicopter. There's no way you're going to see all these windows.
Are you proposing to replace the existing windows?
No, all wood. Existing house has wood windows, and we're going to match the wood windows. For
the wood windows from the photos, it seemed like they're white.
Yes, they're white. We're going to match that.
Would you be open to painting the windows? I mean, I don't know, just because I think it
would look better as stained windows. No problem.
What is this around the?
Originally, it was supposed to be precast, but again, going away from the Mediterranean style, I went with something really simple, and we could even eliminate it altogether if whatever the board feels is. I don't have a problem with eliminating the surrounds or even getting rid of the stone. So, but the roofs, it's something I can't really do anything about, because if you ask him to change the roofs on each side, it's like asking him to demolish the house and build a brand new house. Why do an addition instead of a new house?
Okay, do we have any more questions for Franco? No. Thank you. Okay, public session is closed. Well, why don't you guys go ahead and start?
You want to start? Go ahead.
This is everything that were absent, so.
Yeah, and I'll just tell you,
I'd like to hear.
I'll tell you what I had, just so you know, because I think it might have been one of those. For me, on the old design, what was unfortunate about it is that it's really two different buildings separated by the floors, and I think there's nothing wrong with either. It's just it was inconsistent, and I think what I said last time, and I didn't review what I said last time, but is that you could do something on the lower floor by adding a pony wall and some additional roof that would California on top of the old that would make the lower floor more consistent with the second floor. So that was one option I was talking about at the time. I just think it's totally inconsistent in my mind, so I don't know. So in my mind, I like that it's at least getting more consistent. It's without doing that formal a design, I think you can have the dissimilarity on the first floor without it being so dramatic. I think the banding at the top, and then the massing at the top is so strong with the banding that when you look at the first floor with all of its variation and interest, seems completely inconsistent. So, I mean, there's nothing consistent about it. So from that standpoint, I think the style change, I think, helps so that it isn't so dissimilar. I actually was going to ask Franco if there's really not going to be columns in the porch in the back. Was that?
Yeah.
There's not?
That will be a steel beam.
Really? Okay. That's fine. That's fine. I just have a quick question. Yeah, that was where I was at in the comments I made at the time.
And I must say, I was in support of my colleagues. This was the main talking point, getting some kind of through line, so to speak, between the two stories. And so now as you look at the new design, it seems to have addressed that. But are there other things in the new design, to our new eyes of our board members, that, what were you looking at a through line when you should have been looking at?
In both cases, I have a question. These windows kind of look different. So these are new windows, and it seems like you've tried to make them similar on this side, but then why is one so much bigger and kind of so close?
That's the old design.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
But yeah, can you talk about
Reopen?
Yes.
Well, one is in the master bedroom, and I'm trying to give him as much view as possible. The other one is in a master bath, so it's by the tub, and it's not as important to have more glass there. So I'm trying to keep the amount of glass to a minimum, yet still give him the view. That's really why they're different. But I mean, even from his own backyard, it would be difficult to see that elevation because he can only step away 25 feet or so. I mean, I guess you'll still see the windows, but the impact of it, you're looking at something.
Yeah. No, as I said in the previous case, the argument that just because we don't see, then it doesn't matter. I don't agree with that, but I see what your point is. I don't have any other questions, actually. I like the new design better. It's very short and concise. I think it's an improvement to the previous one, and has somehow the house looks much more together and kind of stronger as a total kind of improvement to become a new house. So from my point of view, things work better and there's less, so that the house comes together better. That's my recommendation. And I think regarding the staff's comment about the entry porch height, it seems that it can lose just a little bit of height. It has become, in the whole proportion of the house, it's almost like just a bit higher than it wants to be. It doesn't give enough room above that for those windows to even kind of have anything to say. So I would kind of agree, but not too much. But you need to kind of consider it, looking at it some more. It's like maybe somewhere in the couple of feet kind of you have to kind of draw it and see what becomes more balanced. But it just seems like it's too heroic, too big, kind of. Generally, that's all I have. I don't see anything wrong with the design. I think it's a very nicely designed house. And the porch might look a bit kind of strange, given the style of the house. You'll never find an opening that wide. So I would think, to be consistent with the design, you would want to see something, because steel girder wasn't kind of created at the time that this style was. So I would, and I think I would, as a suggestion, the windows that have transoms on top, I don't think it bothers me. Actually, the ones at the ground floor, you might consider using higher windows that include transom in it. So it really opens up the interior space. I think you would find that these windows are too, although there's a door and window above, but somehow it wouldn't give the total kind of dimension that you would need. So I would make the door larger.
Well, I think overall, I wish I was here in the first go round. I think I like the first scheme better. I think there's a lot more happening. I think there's a lot more room to, the way that they've addressed the existing, the treatments around the windows and having a lot more interesting elements, the top band, the detail that they proposed. Assuming that this being the same color, this would have been stone, and the stone carrying around and the details coming around. I think I would have suggested that the difference between this top edition and the bottom edition, the same thing with this, is the variation of the plate heights, the overhangs. I think, to me, it's still not, comparing these two, they're still the same. So, personally, I don't think, except this point right here. So I think I would have suggested that certain areas you would play with the plate height, areas that the height is not really necessary, such as the bathrooms, and kind of break up the roof and create some elements there, and bring the same kind of the playfulness of the rafters and the plate heights up at this addition. I agree. I think the opening is huge in compared to it doesn't feel proportioned. So again, back here, just two slender columns still was, to me, I would have said it was unproportioned, and over here it's just completely eliminated. There may be possibilities, maybe adding a band or column or trellis or something, pulling back, bring more light in or something. But overall, I think, if my colleagues are happy with this, I'll go with that. But personally, I think there's a lot more interesting stuff happening there that we could have asked them to carry these details around and bring that architecture, that detailing back onto and start working with that. But if that's the direction
We did ask him to do that.
You did?
That's what you're saying. He didn't want to rebuild the lower sections.
It wasn't rebuilding. It was just, if they were going ahead and putting elements around the windows or I'm not sure if you were proposing to do that originally. So I would have said, let's carry it around and bring those details around. But I think these windows over like small little details like this, a lot more interesting than just blank solid walls. But
I noticed that those windows have been eliminated. Can you bring those windows back? I mean, it seems like those walls can use some windows. I noticed the same thing.
I think they're bedrooms, so I think you end up having just office and your one other suggestion, you have a bedroom next to the vestibule on the right. That bathroom needs a door, so don't forget to put in the door. So don't build a bathroom without no. Friendly suggestion. So. Take a motion.
Just want to address the one issue, there were two recommendations from staff. Are you basically talking about the windows to the right of the entry? Those windows are being smaller?
Those are primarily the ones on the second story and on the
back?
On the back side.
Yeah, I don't... And also, the existing house doesn't have divided lights, and I don't know that this necessarily needs divided lights. I don't know how you guys felt about that. So. I mean, I wouldn't put that as a recommendation.
I would move approval of this project with considerations, and the consideration would be invite the applicant to revisit those windows and on those blank walls. Mike, would you concur with that?
Yeah.
Second.
Who seconded, I'm sorry?
Yeah, I was just going to go through their conditions, just so we didn't have them.
Yeah.
Sure.
I don't know that he needed a divided lights, right? It doesn't need a divided light. And the entry might come down a foot or two.
Yeah.
Just to address that.
Is that a consideration about the entry or a condition?
We could make it a condition.
Okay.
And then to clarify on the condition 1, replace large windows with smaller windows, it says with divided lights and without transom, as a minimum on the front facade. So I think we were looking at the windows, if you're looking at the front facade, if you're looking at the elevation to the right of the entry, to us those felt like they were maybe not as consistent as they could be with the rest of the elevation and the architecture.
Well, I think those are considerations, so they'll look into it and see if they want it, and they can go down.
But you'd like us to strike with the divided lights, because that's not necessary at all. And number 2, reduce the height of the entry porch. Have we heard that's a condition?
I think that's, I think it's proportioned well, so I think lowering it, you may end up having it.
Maybe it should be a consideration, because once you draw, you might...
Right. Okay, so that's a consideration. And then at the rear, we heard discussion about and maybe this is also a consideration, to add columns or a trellis or a horizontal band, because proportionally that appears too large.
I think I know what the problem is. I think looking at this, you have this huge span, which is say about 50 feet span or something? 40 feet span? Okay, so 40 feet span, you're spanning this with a 12-inch beam. You know, it's very thin and slender, so I think it's almost impossible to do this. So I think being proactive about the situation, you may want to add a beam here where maybe that's an approach, add a maybe 24-inch beam, and then create these elements there, and then carry those down with some columns or something. I don't know. I mean, these are just thoughts there. But I think this slenderness versus the span is what the problem is.
I think you've lost some.
Because you're gonna end up, by the time your structural engineer works on it, that thing's gonna be about 30 inches, I guarantee you. And so those windows are gonna be pretty much gone, unless you put columns there, and then your 12-inch would work.
So we see the applicant nodding, and it seems like the board feels strongly about this one. Just to remind you, if it's a consideration, that if all of these are considerations, then staff would, if the plan check set has exactly the same design, staff would stamp them as approved. So if there are any one of these conditions that you feel,
These
or
considerations
that you feel strongly about.
I think that the patio area, I think by the time they're done with their structural engineering, they're going to end up having some sort of structural modification there. So I think I would want to give them the allowance there for them to be able to come up with a design maybe adding columns or
So
a beam or something there that they would,
Configuration
and I don't know how you would address that. I don't want to put it as a,
No, I think the columns, I would say, is not a consideration, but
the column should be a condition. Is that what we're hearing?
even if you have more wall area, that kind of an opening doesn't exist in this kind of a.
So that because it's inconsistent with the style, and that's something that is consistent with all the rest of your previous comments, because it's inconsistent with the style, the applicant should add more columns or recraft the opening in some way that appears more well proportioned to the style. So that gives them flexibility to some language like that. And if we use the term should, then it will be a condition that they do something, but they have flexibility in what they do. Okay.
So I'll restate my motion. We now have one condition and considerations.
Second. I didn't.
Okay, roll call. Board Member Carter?
Yes.
Board Member Garagos?
Yes.
Board Member Zarifian?
Yes.
And Chairman Malakian?
Yes.
Motion carries.
And just one aside, who goes and gets the newspaper in the morning? Okay.
Thank you.
Riverside Drive, this way first.
Okay, good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the board. The last item before you this afternoon or this evening is Design Review 2009-002-A. It's a review of a proposal to construct an exterior facade remodel, a 217-square-foot addition of floor area to an existing single-family residence, and enclosure of an existing carport. As part of the project, 154 square feet of the existing house will be demolished. The project is located at 1647 Riverside Drive in the R1 district. Let me go over with you what's on the board. This is the site plan here. Riverside Drive is along here. The existing residence is here. The proposed additions will be here and here. The carport that will be enclosed is here, and the demolition of part of the square footage is in the rear back here. The roof plan up top, floor plan on the bottom. These are the elevations. This is the front elevation along Riverside Drive. Some photos, neighbor comparisons, and material board. The project proposes to change the architectural style of the residence from a ranch Spanish hybrid to one that's more traditionally Spanish in style. The 217 square foot addition is located both at the front and the rear of the residence. The proposed demolition is located in the rear of the residence. The existing carport located on the front side of the house will be enclosed as part of the project. The site planning of the site doesn't significantly change as a result of the project. The addition to the front of the residence enables creation of an entry court, which is a new feature on the site. Demolition of the existing sunroom and construction of the 87 square feet addition in the rear of the residence will also create a small courtyard in the backyard. The existing orange and sycamore trees will remain within the front yard. Camellia and flax are proposed within the court in the front yard. And then they're proposing a new pepper tree also in front of the bedroom addition. Like the site planning, mass and scale of the residence does not significantly change as a result of the project, and like the majority of the homes in the area, it is modest. The front addition is consistent with the massing of the existing residence. Roof pitch and fenestration size and pattern are appropriate for the residence. The 14-foot height of the existing house will not change as a result of the addition or the project. A variance was recently granted to allow a front yard setback of 19 feet for the proposed addition. While the addition encroaches into the front setback 6 feet, this is an R1 zone, it's required a 25-foot setback. While the addition encroaches into the front yard 6 feet and is not in line with the adjacent houses, given that the encroachment is only approximately a third of the length of the front facade, the design of the addition maintains a mass and scale consistent with the existing house. Additionally, the front yard appears to be deeper than 25 feet. Mass and scale should not be significantly impacted as a result of the project. The project proposes to change the architectural style of the residence to a more traditionally Spanish-style house. Materials included in the project are a lightweight tile roofing, smooth finished stucco, wood windows, wood garage, and front doors. Wood siding is proposed within some of the eaves of the residence. Materials chosen for the project are generally high quality. However, siding is typically not found in the Spanish-style architecture. And additionally, the proposed roofing material is not the traditional material used in Spanish homes. Staff is recommending approval of the project. Draft language contained in the staff report could be used as the record of decision. And that concludes my presentation. Do you have any questions?
I do. I might have just missed it when you said it. Was the height of the garden wall part of the variance?
No. The
They're
variance...
proposing it 3 foot tall, that's why.
I'm sorry?
They're proposing it as 3 foot tall. That's why.
Right, and this is in a horse overlay zone.
Oh, okay. I didn't catch that. Okay.
The variance was for setback and for adding square footage to a house without providing the required 2-car parking.
Okay.
Thank you. Only have one card. Maurice Soliska.
Hello, my name is Maurice Sokolowski, 3711 Lankershim Boulevard, Los Angeles, California. I'm the designer for the project, and I just wanted to say that you can see it's a very simple Monterey-style house, and there are precedents for this house in the immediate neighborhood. There are existing, it's a block house, it's made out of a concrete block, so the walls are relatively thick, they're about 7.5 inches thick. We're going to keep the windows deep inset, so we'll keep some nice shadow lines on the house. A couple of doors up from this house, there are other Monterey-styled houses with siding, with brick, with the same windows. It looks like the same architect probably designed the home. So we looked specifically at that home, very much so to keep the original 1940s flavor. Since it's Monterey-style, it's sort of a hybrid style, as was pointed out. It's based on a Spanish-style house, but more to the ranch. We wanted to maintain the flavor of that, and the siding was consistent with original details of this house, which had been voided out and painted. So we were trying to restore the original detail as the building a few doors down that had been unrestored has all these original details that we could actually see and see how they dealt with them. So we were really trying to keep the simple flavor, not really trying to make any big statement with the house, but trying to go along with the character, probably the original style of this house. And therefore, we opted for the wood windows, which, of course, are more maintenance for the house, but it is original. And also the smooth stucco styling, to keep a very simple elevation onto the house and not add too many details. And it doesn't have much frontage on the house, and it has a very deep-set porch on the front of the house, so there's a lot of shadow line, and it's behind a large a grapefruit tree and a citrus tree, which probably takes away, it's not in, you can see it in my photographs, not in the elevations, but it probably takes away a good half or more of that visual elevation from the street because of the large citrus. But other than that, without the citrus or with the citrus, we tried to keep the original flavor of the house. That's probably all I have.
Well, having said all of this, and I appreciate you trying to maintain the architecture and the character, what was the reason for you to use the S tile?
Partially, well, there's some
the
issues.
Modern material compared to what you should be.
The house has a 2x4 roofing system existing, spaced quite far apart, about 24 inches on center, and it has a couple of layers of roof that, over the years that people have applied onto the top. So what we wanted to do, our attempt was to keep it as lightweight as possible and not impact that roof line. We're finding that we're going to have to beef it up anyway, just even for a lightweight concrete tile. And it's also just a maintenance factor.
So you are going to beef it up?
We're going to have to do something, yes.
So then
because
Why don't you
there'd be
use
sag.
the original two-piece?
It is possible to do an original two-piece tile.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions?
No.
Thank you. Okay. Public session is closed.
I'll start. I think it's nicely done. I think it's very sensitive. I think you took the character very well. I think it's nice. The siding up in the gable, I think, is something that you would see. I don't know that you necessarily see it as thin as what would be there. You might see it as a little heavier, like it might be a 2x or something that would be used. So, not that we would have to change that, but just something we could discuss, I think, whether that aspect. Otherwise, I think it's nicely done.
Any thoughts on the roof?
I do think the S tile, especially the one that's chosen, I think is probably questionable. But I'll let it go flow a little bit. Go ahead.
I think if you like, first of all, I really like your drawings a lot. Really well done, and they kind of bring a character that the S tile wouldn't be doing the same thing that these drawings are doing. So I think there's a difference that the house is small enough that the difference will be kind of significant. Then the second thing is that I think I would like the house without the siding. The siding, I think, takes away from the beauty of the roof kind of going up and down. It kind of makes the ends of these walls heavier. In my opinion, the sides that don't have the ends, that don't have siding, they look better.
Yeah, my thing is I wish it was a heavier siding because I think that would give more character to it. I think
more rustic kind of.
Yeah, a little more rustic feel.
I don't know. I think there's something nice about the Spanish houses. Usually, I haven't seen that much siding on Spanish houses. They're stucco.
Again, we're sort of
and
parsing styles, but you can sort of get a hacienda that would have some wood detailing.
Yeah, maybe.
They could have sort of wood detailing to it.
Yeah, some of the elevations that I see, it seems like it doesn't need the siding, in my opinion. But
yeah, it doesn't need it. It doesn't need it.
But that's all I have. I think otherwise it's a very nicely done, beautiful house.
Yes, I'll concur with my two colleagues there that I think it's a very nicely done project, and I point to the fact that it's an extremely small lot, it's 4,000 some square foot, and applicants that come before us get to build aircraft hangars. You don't have that luxury. So I think you've done a nice job in giving them a little backyard, and the increased enclosures seem appropriate. So I think we'll probably chat a little bit about roofs and get you out of here.
I agree. I think it's a very modest addition, and I think it's done exceptionally well. I do want to encourage you using the two-piece tile. I think it's definitely going to enhance the proposed project. Other than that, I have no other issues. I don't mind the siding if you guys like it. I'm okay with it.
Consideration.
Make it a consideration.
Yeah.
Well, then I will move approval of this project, which is 2 PDR 2009-002 Apple, with considerations.
Well,
was there one condition?
The roofing is a condition? Or is
The roofing...
is a roofing condition or consideration?
oh, yeah, the roofing could be a condition.
Condition? I think it was, yeah.
With a condition and consideration.
One condition, one consideration.
One of each.
Got that?
And let's restate the condition. Does staff get the condition about the roof?
Roofing shall be the two-piece tile.
Yeah.
Just so that the board knows, we've been discovering this as we learn more about materials. This is an existing house, two-piece tile. We know that on another project there's some difficulty, maybe some difficulty finding a lightweight two-piece tile. Normally, we wouldn't mention this, but because this is an existing house,
I understand, but that's why I asked the applicant. They are going to upgrade their structure, even if they go with the as tile, and they indicated they are going to do that. So,
Okay.
so if they are, then
Even to do the lightweight, his roof is not
you still
strong enough for it.
okay, very good. I just wanted to make
2x4 is
sure.
at 24 inches on center.
Yeah, that's comp. Anything other than comp would have to be reinforced.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, so the condition is the roofing material shall be two-piece tile. The consideration is consider eliminating the siding. Correct?
Has it been seconded? I'll say.
I'm sorry?
Has it been seconded?
But if you decide to keep it, make it more rustic.
It needs to be more.
Okay.
Do we have a second?
I did not write down
I
a
will.
second. Okay. Motion was made to approve the project with the one condition and one consideration. This will be a roll call. Mr. Carter?
Yes.
Mr. Garagos?
Yes.
Mr. Zarifian?
Yes.
Mr. Malikian?
Yes.
Great. Motion carries 4-0. Thank you.
Thank you. Very nice. You guys had a chance to go over the minutes?
The minutes, yes, they were sent to me at my place of
Yeah, they look good.
domicile.
There was one set of minutes.
Oh, do we have additional minutes in our,
You just have the January 29th minutes.
right.
I've gone over it. I'm okay.
Yeah, I'm
with it.
following.
Yeah, I've seen them, and I didn't spot
Can we have
anything.
a motion, please?
Making a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll second that.
Okay, a motion was made to approve the minutes of January 29th. This will be a roll call. Mr. Garagos?
Yes.
Mr. Carter?
Yes.
Mr. Zarifian?
Yes.
Mr. Malikian?
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0. Thank you.
Okay, any more staff announcements right now?
We don't have any other staff announcements aside from, again, a reminder that your next meeting on the 12th is canceled.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you.
See you in a month.
I'll accept that under duress.
Whom shall we thank?